Hey everybody, welcome to our Stronger Marriage holiday edition of our podcast. My wife and I have a very, very special guest in our home podcast studio today. It is none other than Mama Mac McPherson herself, my mom, the absolute queen of Christmas. And the next 40 minutes, you're going to have a wonderful ride listening to our, I think, hopefully very helpful conversation as the insights that my wife and my mom drew out, I thought were exceptional, profound, very, very helpful, along with having a ton of fun. I hope you enjoy this holiday edition of Stronger Marriage Podcast. Here we go. Yep. So, welcome to our holiday edition of Stronger Marriage Podcast with my wife, Sharon. And we do have a special guest in the studio today. If you're listening in while you're driving and can't see the lovely edition, I'll kind of set it up this way. Sociologists say that the most stressful relationships in extended families are between the mother of the man and the wife of the man. And it's because you have two women vying for the attention and affections of the single man and the one man, right. Which means I'm the problem. And so in the studio today, we have not only the woman I'm married to, but the woman who bore me, my mother. So the two women who want me the most are in studio.
I wouldn't word it that way. Yes.
Okay.
It's true.
Well,
I was happy to have you move on.
Yes. We understand that. So we'll get into that maybe a little later. So in the studio is my wife, Sharon, and my mom, Candy. Round of applause, the woman who's about to break the internet.
That's
Candy
right.
McPherson.
Yeah, right.
That's right.
Back by popular demand.
I've never been on it.
You've never been on the internet?
No.
Like ever? Have you ever gone? Do you have social media?
Like Facebook or something?
Yeah.
I got tired of Facebook. I haven't been on it for 6 years.
Okay.
And when I was on it, I only had people that I had been related to for over like 30 years. They had to be related to me that long. So
That cuts out a lot of people.
Yes, that was my goal.
That's your goal. What's your COVID sweatshirt say?
My COVID?
Remember your COVID
Your
sweatshirt?
post-COVID sweatshirt. The one that says,
What
when
does
this
that
is
say?
over. When this
When this whole thing is over. Oh, shoot.
it's when this pandemic is over, or when this...
Can we please keep social distancing or something like that?
Right. I still want some of you to stay away from me.
Yes, that's what it says.
It's a snarky, cranky old woman's sweatshirt. It's great.
That's exactly what it is.
So for those of you who don't know, I came from a highly dysfunctional family. And so this is just me processing that with the world. And there's a lot of tension between my mom and my wife, so I thought we'd just have a bit of a cage fight.
Sweet.
No, we, in all seriousness, we got a ton of questions about family and holidays, and I don't think we're getting to any of them because they're pretty hairy. So we're filming this, in all honesty here, we're filming this on the day before Thanksgiving. So for most of you, this is probably going to arrive too late. Our apologies.
For Thanksgiving, anyway.
Maybe next year.
Yeah.
Like Sean said, most of you have crazy uncles already heading towards your house. But we want to help as much as we can. And for those of you who don't know my mom very well, my mom homeschooled my brother and I. And so any shortcomings we have are fully her responsibilities. I saw you starting to soften, like, oh, I was going to say something nice. Can't have that now, can we? Okay.
I knew it was coming.
So, for those of you watching, this is a huge sacrifice my mom is making, and I'll list a couple reasons why. One, she's going on a huge trip with her sister. She's very excited about. Where are you going?
London
at Christmas. Big deal.
Yes, it is.
Why are you guys going?
Why?
Yeah.
Because my dad died. Your grandpa died in June. And after the dust had settled, the funeral was over. Robin had been his manager of financial. And she called and said, because Dad paid for himself all the way through 97
that's
years
remarkable.
old. It is.
Yep.
And he was healthy enough, didn't have to go in a home, or we would have had to come up with money.
Yep.
But he paid for his expenses, and Robin called and said, I think I'm kind of winding things up here, and I think Dad would like us to go on a trip.
Very cool.
And he would.
Yes.
He would love
Absolutely.
that for his 3 daughters.
Yep.
He's the one that said when I came in, when I would come into the room and Candy,
Yeah.
and no one's ever been that excited to see me.
Well, it's your dad.
So we chose London.
That's awesome. So 3 sisters, and you're going to be there, and you're going to, aren't you going to Les Mis?
We are going to Les Mis,
my
which
goodness.
has been going there for 40 years straight.
In
We're going
London.
to a Christmas concert by one of Robin's favorite conductors, and
Okay.
he's 78. So
Okay.
I'm not sure he'll be doing it, but it's the Cambridge Singers and the London Philharmonic Orchestra. He leads both of those. It's a Christmas concert in the round Prince Albert Hall or something like that.
That's
Yeah.
that'll be incredible.
Amazing.
So
Yep. So you're leaving on that trip when?
Monday.
Monday. And
Soon.
my mom is very organized, so she's had a spreadsheet with a certain amount of things to do every day for the last 2 weeks. And I sprung
Not a
this on her.
spreadsheet, but
Well, you have your list of to-dos.
Yes, I do.
You said every day I've got things
yes,
to do.
I do, Josh.
Hey, if you want to downplay what you got to do, that's fine with me. She's got all the time in the world, people. So she's got a list of things to do every day. I asked if she'd be willing to do this podcast. She's like, no, I have no time. And then
I did say no.
She did say no.
we talked, and I prayed for Jesus to release her
Yes,
right.
from her poor attitude.
My
And
selfishness.
yeah, free her, Lord. Bondage of self-centeredness. And here she is. And she said, okay, I'll come help. So
Yes.
she's here. She does not like to talk in public or anywhere, really. You do. Well,
Talk to Sharon.
you talk to Sharon.
we talk
She does not like to think on her feet
off the cuff.
or off the cuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're like, don't ask me any hard questions. I like to prepare for things. So
Because I have things to say,
you have things to say.
but
For
you
sure.
like to
I
think
just
about
need-
them.
I do.
And
I
prepare
do.
your thoughts. And when you do, they're very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
So what I told her was, hey, no pressure here. We want to talk about things that you are in your bones.
That's
and
right.
they just pour out of you. So we'll just forget the audience is there. They can listen in while they're driving around or whatever they're doing. We'll have a little conversation with 2 of your favorite people.
That's right.
I would.
That'd be
I
great.
agree with that.
So
Yes.
the subject is family and holidays. And so it can go lots of different ways. And this doesn't have to be a long conversation because there are lots of questions. We got 15 or 20 questions in that maybe Sharon and I can answer on a later podcast. But I wanted to start with, we've been married for 23 years, be 24 years
Yeah.
in
This
September.
coming year we'll do 24. Yeah.
Is that right?
That's right. I know.
Yeah. How long you been married to Dad?
53.
53.
Mm-hmm.
So between the 2 of us, we have, what is that, 77 years of marriage
I don't know.
experience.
I
There you
taught
go.
you math.
Yeah.
Well,
So
we'll
that's
let the internet do that math. But we have had 23 very enjoyable, 24, 25 very enjoyable holidays together, seasons together. And the older I get, the more pastoral ministry I do. I'm going to get all emotional already. I realize that you're a huge part of that. And Dad as well, in his leadership of you and your
Totally.
guys' agreement. But you've been a huge part of that. You could have single-handedly made our marriage, our life, our holidays miserable.
Miserable.
And you've made them mildly tolerable.
You can help it.
No, they've been amazing, and Carrie and I refer to you often as Mother Christmas. You're just Christmas magic, and you still do that with Mystery Night, and maybe we'll do another podcast if we get enough feedback in the comments here from people to do a holiday version of Stronger Marriage for traditions and memories, how to make memories with your kids, because
Yep.
nobody does it better than my mom.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd start with Sharon, and I'd ask you, because you have the perspective on this as the one who came into our family.
Yep.
And then we started our own family, or a better way to say it, we started our own family, and then we had the McPherson extended family. What are things that my mom did that helped you feel comfortable in our marriage and safe to start our own traditions? Or what are things that Mom has done that has made it easy for you to integrate into the larger McPherson family, even though we have our own family we've established?
Yeah.
Or what are things that Mom has done or said that you've
Well,
appreciated?
that's 3 questions. Can you
Well,
remember the first one?
No, I'm just
In general,
the
Trying
general
to give
idea.
A broad,
yes.
Yeah. What are things Mom has done that
Yes.
you've appreciated as the wife of her son in relationship to holidays in specific?
Totally. Oh man, lots of things come to mind. But I think first it wasn't just focused on the holidays, I guess. It started when we got married. The
Okay.
funny story of Mom saying, he's your problem now, which is what she told me when I married you.
What?
And so
Mom.
that was her kind way of saying,
Inside words.
bye. So even,
Well, they're on the internet
it's,
now.
Yeah, it's a funny comment, but at the same time, it was very telling of how she viewed like us then. I felt very freed as a new wife.
Yeah.
She's like, he's yours. I'm like, oh, he's my responsibility. This is my, exciting.
Make me sound like a stray cat.
Hand him over. I'll take over from here.
You got to feed him now.
No, but it was very freeing for me as a brand new bride to hear you say, okay, go for it. And it wasn't just that comment. It was a lot of encouraging things, which I think is part of even leading up to our marriage.
Yeah.
Mom and dad both were saying things, their wording and how they talked about our future and how they talked about our family. And even how we talked about holidays before we were married was always, well, you guys are starting your own family and you're going to start your own traditions. And I think probably one of the best things they've ever done is put absolutely zero pressure on us to even participate in anything, even as brand new marrieds, which I think sometimes when people are brand new married, don't have kids, there can be this expectations of, well, you can come to everything. You should come to everything because you don't have kids yet.
Yep.
And I think even early on, as far as like holidays specifically, you were always very clear. We'd love to have you come to this, this, and this. You'd make us aware of what maybe extended family was doing or even what you were doing. But then you would always say, but if it doesn't work, that's okay.
It's fine with us.
It's fine with us.
It's okay.
So there was absolutely never any pressure, which
I remember that.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Which I think has a funny effect a lot of times in that when pressure is taken off, you're like, but can we come?
What are you guys doing?
Can
we come over? Yeah,
is it
you
okay if we
tricked
come
us.
over? It's a little reverse psychology.
She's no dummy.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when Mom did that with us when we were first married, it was more like, hey, we're informing. If you would have included us in the planning process,
Agreed.
I think it would have added pressure. And so some people might think, oh, well, let's include them in the planning process, and that'll make them feel more flexible.
Yeah.
But it actually adds more pressure. And so I remember the first couple of years, you're like, hey, here's what we're going to do. And you guys could join us if you'd like. We'd love to have you. But if you got stuff going with Sharon's family or your own stuff, that's great too. No pressure. Let us know. And so that you took the initiative to plan without us, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't even like, hey, what dates work for you guys? Because then I would have been like, oh man,
because the assumption there is we got to be there. I had never thought of it that way. Was that intentional on your end? Did you guys just kind of stumble into that?
No, it was intentional because I had watched so many situations where, and especially, I was going to say mothers of girls in my observations don't let go well. And I had grown up, thinking when we were first married and I had, 2 boys. Well, that'll be interesting once they get married because I won't see them very much.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of the societal way it would end up being. Yeah. You go with the girl's family.
Yeah.
And you kind of don't see the
boy
sons
moves
anymore.
Away and the daughters stay close.
And so I remember when I was younger, I was thinking, okay, that's the way it's going to be. So I need to prepare mentally for that.
Okay.
But then I also realized too that women that are unhealthily holding on to their son or their daughter, just an observation, may not, but this is what I think.
Yeah.
I think that they are not, the relationship between the wife and the husband is not strong.
Okay.
And so then she transfers, she has to have her daughter or her son there all the time, and the family's not right if they're not there.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have a healthy relationship, like Greg and I did, it's, and I had watched people ahead of me. I watched my mother. My mother was that way.
Yeah.
And she said, because I was the first one to get married, the first daughter.
Yeah.
And she started off saying, because we were living in Seattle, and they were here.
You and Dad?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so then it's what works for you. And she was concerned about McPherson's.
The other side.
The other side of the family.
Yes, she was.
Okay.
And she said, when are you going to spend time with them? Or
Yeah.
what?
So sweet.
Have you discussed that? And
Were the
we
McPhersons
will.
ever concerned with her? I don't think so. Picturing
I
Grandpa.
am not going to say that on the air. So Mom was concerned about that, though.
She's very thoughtful,
And
considerate.
now, at that time, I was the only daughter married. And so 2 other daughters were freer, but she always said, we'll work around you.
Yeah.
So that was my experience.
Yeah.
And it was, because I always tell young couples when they're getting married, her parents, his parents, and when it comes to holidays, I mean, you may think you all get along until the first Thanksgiving or
Yeah.
the first Christmas comes along, because it can create this horrible, the pressure and the guilt and the from one side or the other.
Yep.
And it can either be one side is very accommodating and saying, hey, we know now it's different,
Yep.
and you are your own unit, blah, blah, blah. And then the other side, you can get parents that are extremely controlling, and they say, Christmas has always been done, Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And that's the way we do it, and they're not changing for anything. And so if you get one that's really accommodating, one that's really stiff and selfish, and that's not even counting a blended family,
Right.
where you
Right.
have a
Multiple.
divorced mom, divorced dad. So now you have, oh my goodness, you have all this pressure on you.
Oh, yeah.
And where was I going with that?
Well, talking
Oh,
about
just
grandma.
telling
and-
them, telling young marrieds, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and the more initiative that you took to give us space and freedom, it's just natural. The more you were signaling to us that you're safe.
Yeah.
So I think with my personality, as I've looked back on it, if you would have even remotely tried to do this, I would have been gone.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Because it's like, nope. You're like, this is my family. Don't try to control me. This isn't helpful. And so your emotional unhealth would have increased the boundaries I would have had to
Totally.
set to keep my family healthy. And so your emotional health is what drew us. Like, we want to be around mom and dad. And I had never thought about it. Like, this is interesting. You said, like, if you don't know my mom, you were a genius at establishing traditions.
Yeah.
I mean, we have on the Carrie side incredible traditions that we enjoyed for years and years and years with, I mean, like legendary
Yep.
traditions that people
That's
would.
another podcast.
That's another podcast, but what we should
Not
do a
that I'm going to
podcast.
be on it.
Oh,
No, I'm glad you volunteered to come back.
I think you'll get asked back.
That's great.
Done.
Yeah. The internet's probably already on fire with comments. The
Yeah,
people
right.
love you. They're great. They love the sweater.
Yeah.
That's good. I thought, man, I should wear something
you
a little.
step it up a
festive.
little bit. Bring it classy note. But so Carrie's had tons of traditions. It'd be fun to talk about sometime. We grew up experiencing those. The homemade gift that was legendary. People would come. Neighbors, friends would
was it?
come
Right.
to
What was it
participate in
this
it. We
year?
had
Yeah.
the snowball tradition, the candlelight tradition. I mean,
Which was
the-
pretty hilarious to marry into, by the way.
The stocking tradition. It was awesome.
We'll save that for another one. Another podcast. Like the time I sat in your spot.
Well, yeah, you don't
the first
sit.
Christmas.
You don't sit in my spot. that was your bad. But anyways, we digress.
I
Yes.
apologize.
Lots of
Half
traditions we
myself.
had, but then you had our own traditions with our family that we had, and so it would have been very natural for you to having done these established a good track record of traditions with your boys. It would have been very natural looking back for you just to let's just invite Sharon into that, or invite Tara into that, Carrie's wife. And looking back, I remember you saying things like to us, like, well, things are going to change now, so we might need to revisit some of those traditions. And me being like, no. I love those traditions. And you, before I was married, setting me down saying, hey, dude, you're marrying what? She may not like our traditions.
Yep.
And she may have her own traditions she wants to establish.
Yep.
And you guys need to talk on your own to decide what Christmas traditions or Thanksgiving traditions you want to participate in.
Yep.
Because maybe you want to do some different ones. And one day you're going to have kids. And so you initiated that severing process that I may not have initiated just because I loved being at home at Christmas. And so you initiated that severing in terms of like, hey, well, let's do a reset here. And you've done that several times over the course of,
Well, I just think
I'm 45 now, and we've been married for 23 years. There have been multiple times where you're like, this is a probably different podcast for traditions, but it's like, hey, let's only do it if we're still enjoying it.
Totally.
Let's not just do it to do it.
Well, that's one of the hallmarks of a good tradition.
Yeah.
If the enjoyment, if you can sense, but many times women who are driving the tradition, they don't even sense that no one else is liking this.
Totally.
Because they're so tied into it.
Totally.
And you have to give that up. And realize traditions have seasons. Traditions,
Yes.
they don't have to last for 50 years to be valid.
Yep.
A tradition
really
can
good.
be something fun that was done for 4 or 5 years, and then it didn't work, but it's good memories.
Totally.
It's fine. But people get...
Yeah, they
See,
wrap
I
around
won't
the
be
axle.
invited again because I pick on the women, but it gets irritating.
I love it when you do that. It's great.
well, Mom teaches that in her class, in your All Is Calm class. That's a huge part of it when she talks about traditions. And you said that from the get-go with us, even like when we were married, you would encourage me when we were going to start traditions. You're like, and don't think that you're just putting yourself in a box. Like, just because you did it 1 year, you did it a couple years, doesn't mean it can't change in a couple years. It might change when you have kids, or some things you used to do won't necessarily be the case anymore. And that helped me even from an early, from the beginnings of our marriage, to go, oh, let's start this, but then not hold so tightly, because I'm going to be launching kids pretty soon, and then they're going to be having their own.
You guys have established your own traditions.
Yeah, we have quite a few. But
And they've been awesome.
And it's fun. I mean, we know, like Christmas Day, you're together. Now we live
with our family.
We live with you. We live above you.
Yep.
And I mean, I can hear the laughter if I walk into the office, and I can know you're doing something, and that's just, I love that. And sometimes I think, oh, I wish I was down there, but I'm really not. I mean, don't invite me.
Whoa.
Because I want you
This
to
is
do
taking
your
a
own
dark
thing.
turn.
Yeah.
This is, no, didn't I say that right?
Yes,
No, you
you
said it
did.
right. Yes, I was
did.
kidding.
You did.
Okay.
So let me ask you, one thing you said made me think of this. You said a tradition doesn't have to go for 50 years to be valid.
Totally.
There's some things that you smiled and told me later. You've heard me talking about this tradition we did every year. It was so incredible.
I know.
And I go on and on. It was our favorite thing. And you kind of just smile and glint in your eye. And then one time you were like, Josh, just so you know, we did that like twice. And I was like, what? And as a kid,
I remember what it was. I mean, we actually did it 5 or 6 times, but I also knew how kids think. And I told Greg, they're going to look back and they'll think we did it every summer.
Yeah.
We did it every summer.
Yeah.
And we didn't. I mean, because I went back and tried to kind of figure it out, and it was, I think it was more like 5 summers.
Yeah.
But yet it was so established.
It felt like a tradition we did every year for 50 years.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't have to go for 50 years is the point for it to be special.
Yep.
And so you've hit a couple things to recap here. It doesn't have to go forever to be special.
Yep.
The woman who's typically driving a tradition needs to have the self-awareness to know when people are enjoying it or not. And then you've come to us, you've come to Carrie and Tara, you've sat Carrie and Tara and me and Sharon down and been like, hey guys, would you like to keep doing this? Because if you know, we don't have to keep doing it.
Yep.
And so you've continually come back to us and just taken the pressure off, provided freedom, provided outs. And it's kind of like if you're going to get on a road and there's no, and you know there's no off ramps, you're like, I'm going to take a different road.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you know there's off ramps every 3 miles, you're like, yeah, let's see how far it'll go. And then you end up on the road a long time. And I think that's part of the magic of you and Dad is that we've felt free to participate in the traditions that we've established together. 1, because we got a say in it, and 2, because we didn't feel pressure to. And then the cool thing is, Carrie and Tara have their own traditions with their families, and we hear them, we're like, oh, that's so, why did we think of that? That's so cool. But that's because that's their family.
Yep.
And we have our family, you have your family,
Yep.
and then we're all extended family, and it has to work for everyone. And another thing I've heard you say is, like, if it doesn't work for everyone, it doesn't work for anyone.
Yep.
So it's not like, well, Sharon likes it, but Josh doesn't, so we're going to do it, or vice versa. Well, this is Josh's favorite, and so Sharon can suck it up. Like, nope, if it doesn't work for the two of you, and so you've regularly pushed us back to, because I've, this is an interesting confession, I would have probably ran over Sharon and committed her to more things than maybe she wanted to, but you'd be like, would you ask Sharon? And I would say, she's going to love it. And you'd say, no, did you talk to Sharon? I'd be like, trust me. We've been married for 2 years. I got this all figured out. I'm going to write a book on it.
Right.
Been married for 2 years.
And you'd be like, Josh, you need to go talk to her first. And so And I don't know if you ever communicated that to her, but Sharon knew that like we weren't scheming to commit to things that she wasn't being included on.
Right.
You were safe for her because you didn't have like a back channel communication access to me where I'd be like,
heavens.
hey, we're going
No.
over there on Christmas or we're
Right.
doing this.
No,
and I'm
no,
like,
no.
oh, what? How's that? Oh, I talked to mom.
Yeah,
Instantly that would have
absolutely.
felt.
No.
That was never the case. There's never, I mean, absolutely not ever been plans made between the two of you and then you inform me.
Yes.
Oh man, I feel like that's the quickest way to undermine, and it may not even be the mother-in-law's fault. It might be the husband's.
Yeah.
Because he's the one that's like, "Are we doing that thing? Are we doing that thing?" And then the family's so excited. And I can see an emotionally unhealthy mom being like, "Oh, he still needs us and wants me and all these things," and so she easily steps into that. And then in reality, the wife is being the one that's cut out and told, like, "Nope, we're doing this." I mean, like immediately, what a wedge that would put between a husband and wife. You know,
Oh, and
I just-
Between you and me.
well, for sure, because
Yeah.
then I'd be like, "What is she doing?" And it might not even be her fault. You know.
Yeah,
It's-
the dude can really screw this up.
Oh, absolutely.
The dude can really, if he's either caving to his mom's pressure, or he's in an unhealthy way communicating with her while cutting the wife out, and then she doesn't feel protected.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about undermine
good.
unity,
Yeah.
undermine oneness. I mean, it's like it's Thanksgiving dinner. It's not that big a deal. Hey, dude,
is a big
it's a
deal.
huge deal.
Huge.
It's a huge deal. I mean, any guy out there listening right now who thinks making plans with his family while not including his wife is a small thing, you're a moron.
Yep.
Because that's a direct
agree.
attack on your oneness that you fired the shots at. It's one thing for Satan to attack your marriage. It's another thing for you to attack it yourself with just being stupid. So,
Which should already be an agreement in a marriage to begin with.
yes.
There shouldn't be plans being made on either side, a husband or a
Yeah.
wife, with anybody for that matter, even
Right.
family
Never.
or anybody
Yeah.
that you aren't going, you know what, that sounds
to
amazing.
check
Let
with
me check with my spouse. Let me check with my husband.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it and get back to you. I mean,
Yeah.
that should pretty much always be the response and
Yeah.
an agreement in a marriage.
What did Dad do? Not to put you on the spot. What did Dad do that helped free you not to need to pursue me or Sharon? You said. You said.
No, he was just the husband. I mean, for years, he'd proved himself as the husband who's I can trust to follow, and I respect him. And what was the question? I need a Diet Pepsi. Or
He needs a drink. Diet Pepsi break.
I thought I shouldn't say I need a drink. But I didn't want to admit it's Diet Pepsi because
Yeah.
that's no good for
Well,
you.
Yeah,
it's
what is
okay.
in there, Mom?
It's your one vice.
It's my one vice.
It
I
is.
thought you've been pretty loose this podcast. What
What
would
was the
RFK
question?
think? I was asking, because you made the comment, if a woman doesn't have a healthy marriage with her husband,
Yeah.
then she can transfer the needs of identity,
Oh, yeah.
purpose to
So-
her children.
Yeah.
So can you, I mean, maybe not specifics, but what did you and Dad sit down and he say, hey, look, I'll love you enough that you won't miss the children? I mean, what did Dad do?
Well, it was a lifetime. I mean, it was
Okay.
all those years of marriage, of building the trust and leading our family well. And I liked the way he was leading you boys.
Yeah.
You know, so I had no issues with him
Yes.
as far as the discipline or the spiritual input. I just had strong respect, and we had agreements all over the place on what we're doing, how
Yeah.
we're raising the boys, what character qualities we want to see. We don't always bat.
Always got 1,000. Did your best.
I did my best. I mean, so we had agreements in all areas
Yeah.
of marriage, and we had also talked about if there comes a time when all the boys are married, and maybe it's a time where you're both with your other families. Fine, we'll go do something.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to sit and feel sorry for myself.
Yeah.
We are going to go up to Sun Mountain
Yep.
and stay a couple nights or something and
Yep.
have fun. You know,
Yep.
we're not going to say, woe is me. And, you know, I mean, again, it comes back to the parents, and it can be either the girl's parents or the guy's parents.
Yeah.
But once there's a marriage, I mean, everyone's happy at the wedding and all this sort of thing, but they can start the control pretty fast.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, like remember when you say to your kids, you know, your 3-year-old, now, Johnny, you got to share your toys here, share, and you're trying to, you say, well, what are you teaching that for? We're trying to teach unselfishness and caring,
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing when the kids get married.
Right.
Listen up. You have to share your kids now.
Yeah.
They can't just be with you every Sunday after
Yeah.
church, every Christmas, exactly when you want them to be.
Yeah.
You are sharing them.
Yeah.
And it's a sign of really immaturity and selfishness when they're not willing to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So don't ask me back.
That's good. For all the parents
Well,
out there.
I will say, as you were talking, it made me think, I don't want to forget it. I had a thought. You were saying, it's the parents' job to have their own life and not feel like the kids need to participate in your life to make your life full. There's been several times where you've been like, hey, your dad and I, we're taking off for this holiday, or we're going to be gone, whatever. And we're like, wait, what? And we're like, no, we have a family. You're like, we're taking off. And I don't know if you've intentionally done that, but like it only takes one or two of those times to make us feel like they're not waiting for, there's no pressure on us. Like if we don't show up, mom's going to have a terrible Thanksgiving or a terrible Christmas or a terrible whatever it is. Here's an example. We had talked, you had dropped subtle hints in your joking way that you wanted a fun 50th wedding anniversary. And, we celebrated your mom and dad's that way. We had a fun 25th. And so we would have these conversations about that. And as that year came up, both Carrie and I were in a firefight to keep the church alive. It was right in the middle of COVID and government lockdowns and shutdowns, and we were still open, and there was a lot going on. Mm-hmm. And I got to the end of the year, and I was like, oh my gosh, mom and dad's 50th. Like we didn't do anything, and you hadn't even mentioned it. You hadn't dropped any hints. You hadn't done any passive aggressive pressuring on us. And I was like, I felt mortified. I was like, we miss celebrating my mom and dad's 50th, which is huge, not only as an accomplishment yourself, but as an accomplishment for a couple who's helped so many couples. We could have thrown a huge party. Hundreds of people would have come back to celebrate that, and we just weren't able to, and you never mentioned it. And I wanted to say publicly, thank you for not making us throw a party. It was such a relief. Yeah. So, but I have asked Carrie to throw you in this year, so he's got big plans. It's going to be amazing.
It could be 55.
There you go.
If we make it that long.
It could.
Yeah.
But the point being, I guess, to say I've never felt pressure from you, ever, to throw a party, attend a party, come to holidays. We get invited, we get informed, and then you'll say, like, hey, do you want to talk about making plans? You guys got your own plans. So even when you invited us to participate in making the plans, it's not a subtle, hey, let's make plans so you can be there. It's if you'd like to be there, let's make plans. If not, let us know. So I really appreciate that. I know that comes from you and Dad and your agreements together and his leadership of you, but you've been the one who's kind of been point person on it as far as running the calendar. Yep. And I really appreciate that. And so thank you, Mom.
Well, you're welcome.
And I guess this would be a perfect time to tell you we don't plan on spending Christmas with you ever again.
Actually, that's a relief.
Oh, well, there you go. So
they have plans too, so take that.
It's a win-win. It's a win-win. Yes. So, Mom, thanks for coming today.
Oh, are we done?
Yeah, we're wrapping it up.
Oh, I was going to say something.
Oh.
I had a thought.
Let it rip. Okay.
When we were talking about doing this, because I was thinking about this relationship, and then we can wrap it up.
Okay.
Because this is not just complicated in a marriage. It gets complicated when you have kids. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about kids, and I was thinking about gifts, and I was thinking about the holidays and how that can be a very difficult scenario. Not even a question you've asked me, but I was thinking about it. So here you go. Letter bonus round, as you would say. I was just going to say that Mom and Dad have done such a great job in regards to our kids and gift giving every year, because that can be a crazy thing to navigate.
Yes.
Especially for a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law, and a son too. But you have only ever either talked to me about a gift that you're going to get our kids, or you've asked, you say, hey, what do you think they'd be interested in? And I also know you have your standards. So if I give you some ideas, you'd be like, well, I'm not buying that. And I'm like, okay, great. Sounds good.
So, Miser
other
grandma.
than that, I don't have any opinion.
But all to say, there's just been an open line of communication, like random stuff that we wouldn't approve of doesn't land under the Christmas tree.
Yes.
Unbeknownst to us for our children.
Never.
Like you would never do that. And so even early on with our kids, you would talk to us ahead of time. Hey, is there something the kids would really like? I would love to be able to do this. Or do you have some ideas you could send my way so I can get them what you would like them to have? And a lot of you would always check with us.
Yes.
Do you think this is okay? How about this? And that is for whatever reason an area that is kind of wrought with turmoil. And
that's
in that relationship, especially at the holidays. And so I guess to any daughters-in-law and sons-in-law, it's like communicate with in-laws if they want to give you presents, offer us some suggestions, and hey, this would be amazing if you wanted, but no pressure to. There's just got to be some communication. And then for all those mother-in-laws who want to just absolutely spoil their grandchildren or choose what they want to get, I think it comes back to not being selfish. Like you could easily want to like overwhelm our children so they would like you.
Buy what the world is advertising, and it's the latest thing. Without thinking it through, what they don't even know the current.
Does it align with the parents' values?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But also, I think it could be another way of manipulation.
Agreed.
We bought these big presents, so we got to be there. We'd like to be there when they open it. Or we're going to tie a bunch of heartstrings to your kids, so they always want to be with us. And you could have be made to feel like you're going. Mom and dad are going around you to our kids. And you're like, well, I don't want to be a jerk and tell them they can't be a good grandpa and grandma, but we don't want them to have those kind of presents, or that would be too much, or we wanted to give them that. I mean,
that's been a conversation many times.
I've said, were you
going to give that? Yeah.
Yeah, Dad wanted to get the boys the airsoft rifles, and he was like, but that's a big deal, and I don't want it to steal your thunder. So if you want to give that to him, like that'd be fine. Or here, you could give it to him. And I was like, well, no, Dad, you bought it. That's cool. Or you're going to buy it. And so I think he even held off 1 year because I was like, well, I was going to get in this year. Okay, no problem. I'll save it for next year.
Yeah.
And so we have never felt, and I think Carrie would say the same thing if he was here. In fact, I think he is right there.
Where?
He just walked up.
Oh.
Over there. But we've never felt infringed on like, Mom and Dad are spoiling our kids or trying to buy our kids' affections. Right. It's like, hey, there's your kids first, our grandkids second, and we're here as the grandparents to help support your plan for your kids.
Yes. So
how could we do that? And that's because sometimes grandparents think they're being helpful by spoiling their kids, and they're not being helpful. And the parents have to then navigate this whole like, whoa, that was a little much. Boy, thanks, Grandpa. It's like, have fun with that. It's like, that's not building trust. That's not building unity. That's not respecting the boundaries of a new family. That's kind of using grandpa and grandma privilege to violate some boundaries. And it puts the parents in a hard spot. Like, well, it kind of feels weird to be cranky about them buying our kids presents.
Right.
But that's not how we would have done it. And we've had some years where it's like, man, we kind of went over the top here a little bit. And so if you guys could back off, that'd be great because we don't want to like completely ruin our kids. You know what I mean? And other years where like it's been lean. And you're like, copy that, we'll throttle up. and Grandpa and Grandma come in to save the day. So that's a really great point, babe, that Mom has been very communicative regarding presents during the holidays.
I have one more.
Yeah, fire away.
About Mom. What were you going to say?
Oh, well, I was going to say, you told me one time that you were at Hobby Lobby with your kids.
Oh, yes.
At Christmas, and you're wandering around looking at things, and you got distracted by something, and you turned back, and the kids it was in the grandparent section or something.
Make sure you talk toward the microphone there.
Yes,
oh,
perfect.
This thing. Forgot it was here, just like you said.
There you go.
But I was turning to Sharon.
Yes.
But so you turned around, and they were reading something that says, like, what happens at Grandma's house stays at Grandma's house. And they were totally silent. And Ella says, and I don't know how old she was at the time, but she said, that doesn't happen with, what happens at Grandma's house stays at Grandma's house. And she said, that's not what happens with my grandma. And I said, well, that's one of my proudest moments. Because they know that if they misbehave or whatever, it's...
Yeah,
absolutely.
You're going to know it if I think you need to know it.
That would make another great episode. Actually, people can comment make a comment in the comment section if they'd like to hear this. But doing a podcast with you and Dad on what you've done when you've seen things in our parenting or our kids that concerned you, and how you went about it in a way that was helpful for us to receive it. As opposed to making us feel like we don't ever want to talk to you again.
Right.
Right. Well, I think it's been few and far between because most of the time we keep our mouth shut. If
Yeah.
we see something we don't really,
Well, there
but
hasn't
it's
been
not
much
a
to
moral
see, right?
issue, so who cares?
Have you kept your
But-
mouth shut a lot?
I feel like we need to talk afterwards.
No,
This feels like-
no, it's just different families. It's just, it's okay.
Yeah.
And because we live here, then we see a whole lot more too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but no.
No, but there's been some things where
Yep.
or we've come
We
to talk
wanted
to
to
you.
make you aware of
Yeah, it
something.
was more like, hey, just so you know. But
Yeah.
that's a whole other episode. Were you going to say one more thing, or were you done?
The only thing I was thinking about was just in regards to a mother-in-law and relationship in starting a new household. Back to one of our original questions, which
Yeah.
was just how we're starting up. I think one thing that I've loved about Mom that she's always been aware of is she's always gotten to know me and my style for my home or things that I like. So both her and Dad are exceptional at asking good questions and finding out about me and my personal. They know you. They already know you.
Yeah.
But as we were first married, she was always asking questions, observing our home, how
Yeah.
I would decorate or what I would choose or whatever. And so I've never received a gift from my mother-in-law that's like, here, put these towels in your house because this is what I like. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds so funny, but
That is
for
so
a wife
good.
establishing
That
her
is
new
so
home,
good.
like Mom has never given me things that she loves. She's taken
Yeah.
the time to wait or to observe,
The
to
passive
see.
aggressive
Yes.
gift giver.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's the worst.
So that has not ever been
That's
the
really
case.
good.
And as we were thinking about stuff that just the uniqueness of relationship, I was like, that also set me off on a good path as a newly married, starting our own home. I felt no pressure
Yeah.
to make our home look like a log cabin
Yeah.
with bears on the towels. That's Mom's house,
That's
which
right.
is great, but it's
right.
what you grew up in. And
That's
so
right.
that was naturally what you liked.
And moose.
And some moose.
She
And
doesn't like bears and moose.
green things, which is great. But guess what, Mom?
Sorry.
She's never given me anything with a bear or a moose on
I
it.
know.
Which means she was paying attention.
yes. Somehow she got the message.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes that just is a bummer that
Yeah.
happens with mother-in-laws potentially thinking, well, I want my son to continue in the culture and the environment that he's always been in. Well, he's not.
Yeah.
He's not married to you. He's married to me, us.
Right,
We're creating this home, and a
Yeah.
woman needs to be able to create her own home, especially around the holidays and just even in how she decorates or what she puts out. And there's just
Yeah.
never been a pressure from you, and I think a lot of it has to do with just you've always observed like what I like, ask good questions,
Yeah.
or even say, well, do you see anything in here that you like? And I just know because you really want to know like what I
Yeah.
love and what I enjoy.
That's
I just always
a really
appreciated
good
that.
point, babe. Yeah, Mom
Anyway.
took time to get to know you.
And Dad too.
And Dad,
not
yep.
just Mom.
So that, again, that's all part of reinforcing your household, your
Exactly.
home, your new family.
Mm-hmm.
We're not inviting you into our family. You're
Uh-uh.
not joining our family. You're starting your own family. That's really, really good.
Yeah.
Really good observation, babe. So to recap here, things that Mom did to ensure we could have wonderful holidays was no pressure or expectation on us to do anything. No passive aggressive, what day would work for you? We'll do whatever works for you. Because when that happens, when you say, we'll do whatever date works for you, it's like, there's no way out of it now.
Right.
Because
Right.
they just said whatever date. And so it's like, so no pressure, no expectation, no inviting us to join the planning process that would passive aggressively paint us into a corner, making plans for yourself, and then offering us the option to join if we wanted. And you genuinely meant it. That's probably an important key to make. You weren't
Yeah.
like, you weren't like following the recipe of a book. You genuinely loved your husband, loved your husband. He loves you. You have plans. You're going to be happy whether or not you have your way at the holidays or not. So that was a genuine offer and not a fake offer. So no pressure on us, no expectations on us, no passive aggressive invitations to help make plans and pick a date that works for us. So we paint us into a corner. A genuine desire for us to establish our own traditions as a family. And then partnering with us with our kids, never passive aggressively giving presents that we wouldn't like or that you thought might win the affections of your kids or go around us, always inviting us into the process, and then never giving Sharon passive aggressive presents
With moose or bear on them.
With moose or bear on them. I feel like if you avoid those pitfalls as a family,
You'll make it.
you'll make it. So, Mom, I love you. You are
Yes,
you are
we love
Mother
you.
Christmas, and yeah, it's been great celebrating 45 Christmases with you, and
Wow.
Yeah.
hope the Lord gives us at least 5 or 6 more. How long do you plan on living?
Well, I don't know that.
Are you? You're
The Lord knows
75?
I'm 73.
73.
Dad's 75.
If you could how many more Christmases do you want?
Well, I kind of figure there's maybe, my mom died at 84.
Okay.
So I could have, and I know that's no for sure indication.
Yeah.
But, so maybe 9 or 10 more.
Okay. Well,
And I don't know if I can decorate. I mean, for the last 2 or 3 years, I've said, how long can I do this?
Yeah.
Because I try
It is
to
pretty
make
epic.
everywhere. And a grandchild said it today up at my house. She said, Grandma, everywhere you look, it's Christmas.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, that's what I wanted.
Yep.
Everywhere they look,
Yeah.
they can see Christmas.
You're the master decorator, so
But I don't know.
I'm pulling for you to do it as long as possible. Let's have 10 more really good Christmases.
Yeah, for sure.
I love you.
Love you too.
Yeah.
And love you more.
Thanks, Mom.
Classic.
Are we done?